From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the witching hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you are listening to this program. I am John the Frost, and joining me, as always, is the medium Jenny Lee. How are you doing, Jenny?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. You ready to get weird?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, we got a great show. Thanks, everyone, for jumping in here tonight. Welcome, all of you. Chat is kicking already tonight, and we're here on time. How about that? It's the first time in a couple weeks we've had some,
Hot damn.
technical difficulties and all those wonderful things you get. But we're here tonight, and we're glad to see all of you. We're glad to see all of you on this Thursday evening.
We
Middle of
have a
March.
we have a hype train happening.
We do have a hype train happening.
Posters and CMC resubbed, and then
Oh,
Shadow Max
smoke.
dropped a sub for Journey. Thank you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. We are so glad that you guys are here. We're happy to do this show tonight. We got a great show for you tonight. I've been looking forward to this show for a while. We went to the Hanover Tavern Paracon, which we talked about a lot.
Yeah.
We met some cool people there, just like we did last year. We met more new cool people, but we have somebody that we're looking forward to chatting with tonight, Jenny McGurk. We're going to talk about all kinds of interesting and wonderful things. But I guess, Jenny, the first thing we should do is probably the news, huh?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So first,
I was just going to say it's going to get complicated tonight because we have two Jennies.
I know. It's be Jenny's and Jenny's. We'll be okay.
Which I know Jenny. Other Jenny McGurk is, I'm sure, used to, because unfortunately there's a lot of us.
There's a lot of Jennies.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jennifers and Jennies. And, Yeah. Anyway, news time.
1.4 million year old skull fragments linked to a mystery human ancestor. Most of a human face found in northern Spain belongs to a primitive archaic human, making the oldest known evidence of hominins in Western Europe.
How old was it?
1.4 million year old.
Oh, wow.
Fragments. The facial remains are not those of Homo antecessor, an archaic human species whose roughly 900,000 year old remains were previously found at the same site. So we have like multiple ancient humans living in the same areas at different times.
Different kinds, and I feel like they just keep finding more and more.
Yeah. So this one,
weird.
So the paper introduces a whole new a whole new actor in the story of human evolution. Homo affinis erectus, said study co-author Rosa Huguet in a Nature press briefing. This finding allows us to accept that during the early ages, more than one early human species lived in Europe. So we have all kinds. Like you said, there's just more and more Homo sapiens and stuff like that are being found. And this one, 1.4, I thought that was interesting because that's pretty recent in terms of like humans. You know what I mean? Like that's not something that existed 8 million years ago or 7 million years ago. Like you're getting to kind of like the beginning of Homo sapiens sapiens. So something that kind of lived maybe just before some of the other Neanderthals and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I wonder if anyone has done any remote viewing into all of these. And if there hasn't been, I feel like we should.
Yeah. Story number 2, lab-grown food could be sold in the UK within 2 years. Meat, dairy, and sugar grown in a lab could be on sale in the United Kingdom for human consumption for the first time within 2 years, sooner than what has previously been expected. The Food Standards Agency is looking at how it can speed up the approval process for lab-grown foods. Such products are grown from cells and small chemical plants. UK firms have led the way in the field scientifically, but feel they have been held back by current regulations. Dog food made from meat that was grown in a factory vats went on sale in the UK for the first time last month.
I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I see the positives of it, right? Like, we don't have to
Mhm.
kill animals, which is great.
You also don't have to have like the big farms of, like the
But
chickens, you know what I mean?
when they said
Yeah.
it's being grown in chemical factories, that just, like, totally puts me
Mhm.
off because we know from our, uh, various many years of, what humans do, we always screw
Mhm.
things up. So, I can just see it going terribly wrong, but maybe we're working towards something that will be good.
Possibly. In 2020, Singapore became the first country to authorize the sale of cell cultivated meat for human consumption, followed by the United States 3 years later and Israel last year. However, Italy and the U.S. states of Alabama and Florida have instituted bans. Um,
You don't say. The southern states of America are saying no thanks.
well, yeah, I imagine you're going to see a setup too where you're going to see like
Ay, ay, ay.
places like Texas and stuff like that. I would think that would fight against it
Yeah,
because,
because they have a big I
yeah,
mean,
they have cattle
cattle.
industry.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's kind of a playback to the story we were talking about where they were making the mammoth meatballs,
Mammoth
planning to make them into
meatballs.
mammoth meatballs.
Weird
Um,
weird news brought to you by Mammoth Meatballs.
which brings us to our next story tonight. Hoping to revive mammoths, scientists create
I
woolly mice.
saw the little tiny woolly mouse. It's so cute, but I still don't know how I feel about all this.
Scientists have genetically engineered mice with some key characteristics of an extinct animal that was far larger, the woolly mammoth. This woolly mouse marks an important step toward achieving the researchers' ultimate goal, bringing a woolly mammoth like creature back from extinction.
I
For us,
mean,
go ahead.
I I just was thinking that it would have
Mhm.
been cooler if not only did they make it woolly, but they also made it large.
Like a giant. I don't know if we want to start creating like 2-ton mice,
Giant woolly
because then
woolly
if we create
mouse.
2-ton mice, we got to create like 3-ton cats, right? So then we're really messing with. Then we're really causing
Yeah.
problems there.
I mean, I see the point. I see your point.
Yeah.
It still would have been cool.
Um, for us, it's an incredibly big deal, says Beth Shapiro, chief science officer at Colossal Biosciences, a Dallas company trying to resurrect the woolly mammoth and other extinct species. The company announced the creation of the woolly mice Tuesday in a news release and posted a scientific paper online detailing the achievement.
But hold
Scientists
on.
implanted genetically modified embryos in female lab mice that gave birth to the first of the woolly pups in October.
But if we make woolly mammoths, what are we gonna do with it? Where are they gonna go?
Well, I mean, in a zoo, I guess. I mean,
Ay, ay, ay.
yeah, there's just not a natural habitat. Plus, there won't be real woolly mammoths anyway because they're going to be using Asian elephant embryos, like so it's just going to be
Yeah,
like a mix between
an
what you're going to get
elephant
is you're going to
and
get a
a
mix
woolly
between an
mammoth.
Asian elephant and a woolly mammoth. Yeah,
Mm. Feel like
but
we
if
could
you want
be
to see a
I f
picture,
I feel like we could be doing a lot better things with our time
yeah,
and money, but whatever.
if you want to, well, if we're ever going to turn into the Greys and be able to use DNA to be able to create hybrid future selves, we got to figure out this technology. You know what I
I
mean?
guess. I don't know. What's the next story?
So if you want to see a picture of the woolly mice, I have it up on Discord in the weird news, so you can go check it out. See a picture of the mice, the way they looked before, and then the woolly mouse, which actually has a different fur color too.
It
Which
is,
I was
yeah.
looking in the article, it has like a more of like a yellow blonde kind of fur color. So maybe I guess the woolly mammoths would have been, I never knew that they would have been that light color. But anyway, next story. Everyone has psychic abilities. Controversial new study suggests.
No shit.
The question of whether or not psychic abilities exist has remained a point of contention for years. While concrete evidence of abilities such as telepathy, telekinesis, and clairvoyance continues to remain elusive, some people are absolutely convinced that such abilities really do exist. There have been scientific studies into the phenomenon. Jenny, we can't say we want them to do scientific research on this stuff and then laugh at them when they do this
I'm
scientific
just
research.
laughing at everybody's comments in the chat.
Okay. There have been scientific studies into the phenomenon. So enter Dr. Morris Friedman, a Canadian researcher who has headed up a recent study which alleges to have discovered the part of the brain responsible for inhibiting psychic abilities.
Oh, they found a part of the brain that inhibits psychic abilities.
This is, of course, quite a claim, given that the existence of such abilities, remains to be scientifically accepted. According to the study, all humans may possess innate psychic abilities. To investigate further, Dr. Friedman and colleagues used a technique known as repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation to temporarily alter the brain activity of volunteers using magnetic pulses. This, according to the study, helped the team identify an area of the brain responsible for inhibiting psychic abilities and even enabled volunteers to influence a random number generator. These findings are potentially transformative for the way we view interactions between the brain and seemingly random events, said Dr. Friedman. If you want to see the results in the study itself, I have also published the complete study over in the Weird News if you want to look at the scientific paper. So there we go. Science. I mean, it's science backing up some of what we've talked about.
We could have a whole episode about this discussion, but if we didn't think of
maybe we could have
ourselves,
Dr. Friedman on the show.
if we didn't think of ourselves as separate from animals, we would have realized a long time ago that we have those abilities because animals have those abilities. We are an animal. Hello.
Yeah, for sure. I finished that argument with you a long time ago. That we're animals. All right, and then lastly, because today is an anniversary. Today is a wonderful anniversary. It's an anniversary that most people shouldn't forget. It is the anniversary of the Phoenix Lights, the 28th anniversary. On this night, March 13th, 1997.
I thought you were going to say it was the COVID anniversary, which I think didn't that happen, or is it?
It was sometime around this time.
Okay. Anyway, Phoenix Lights is way better. Let's go with that.
Yeah, thousands of Arizonians looked up and saw something they couldn't explain: a massive V-shaped formation of lights hovering in the sky. 28 years later, the Phoenix Lights remains one of the most infamous UFO sightings in U.S. history, fueling speculation, debate, and ongoing scientific curiosity. And I thought this story was interesting because it specifically talks about a phenomenon for Dr. Lynn Kaidi. I might be mispronouncing that name. She was a medical professional who was so profoundly impacted that night by the viewing of the lights over Phoenix that she left her career in medicine to study the Phoenix Lights full time.
That's cool.
So a pretty big sighting. I think probably the biggest sighting that's occurred during my life. My kind of not being a little kid, like actually knowing what was going on.
For sure.
So there we go. March 13th, 1997, 28 years ago. And that was the weird news.
Good weird news tonight.
There we go.
Other than my eye rolls and having a fit about things.
All right. So we have a lot for you tonight. So we're going to go ahead and keep it going. We're going to bring on Alyson, the Priestess of Wonderland, to update us on the moon. How are you doing, Alyson?
With big things today.
Hello.
Yeah. Big news. Big news.
Yeah, thank you for not terrifying me with the weird news this time.
There's no
microplastics or nothing. Yeah.
I mean, it was weird, but we can handle weird, right? That's why we're here.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, according to Jenny, we're going to have African elephant sized mice running around sometime soon. But...
Or Shadow Spoken brought up a good thing that I thought might be better. What if we had mouse sized woolly mammoths?
That's what I would.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be really cute.
And then you would have to worry about giving them like this big natural habitat.
And people could have them as pets. Let's do that.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were going to say. And I was like, oh, that's going to be cute. But, no.
Not giant mice, but small woolly mammoths.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alyson, what did we miss last week? Because we were supposed to have you on and we didn't. And it's a good thing we didn't. But what did we miss last week?
Well, last week, March 1st, Venus went retrograde. So last month in February, I was telling everybody to get all their Valentine's in and their hugs and their kisses and their romance in, because Venus retrograde slows things down a bit. And Venus is in Aries, which is usually like a very hot and passionate and spring, Twitter-pated, flirtatious kind of energy. But when we retrograde it, it puts on the brakes a little bit, and it has this whole month has this energy of burn it down or heat things up. And March is like the dumpster fire of 2025 that we talked about in our predictions in January, which feels like last week, but that was 3 months ago. And
I know.
so
what?
now we're in it. Now we are in the dumpster fire. And
it's not a dumpster fire of love, though.
I guess it could be. I don't know. Depending on how much you like fire. So Venus went retrograde March 1st. March 3rd, Mercury is moving into Aries, so more fire. And Mercury is the planet of communication, so it's very like quick-witted kind of energy, but also like not thinking before you speak. Like you're too quick to say something and then regret what you say.
Fun times.
So Mercury is in Aries for this week. Then Saturday, it goes retrograde also. So this month we have both Venus and Mercury retrograde. And we all know Mercury retrograde. We've experienced it before. It's a pain in the butt. And it is what it is. So tonight, or the early tomorrow morning, we have our Virgo full moon lunar eclipse. So our first eclipse of this year. And Virgo, also ruled by Mercury, is the one that helps us get things organized. So I don't know how you guys are feeling today, but we've been in Virgo for since yesterday. And it's just like, it feels like we're taking out all of these emotions and labeling them and like putting them in boxes and like organizing things. And so an eclipse
we're
can
organizing within the dumpster fire.
Yeah. Do you want to throw it in the fire, or do you want to like put it back in storage and keep it for a while? It kind of has that like Marie Kondo donate.
Does this bring you joy?
Get rid of whatever. Does it bring you joy or not? Like get rid of it.
Burn it.
So an eclipse in general can bring up some like deep emotions. So it's kind of Virgo lunar eclipse is like bringing up this emotion or obstacle or challenge or something that you need to look at and examine. And examining it, do you want to label it, keep, or get rid of? And now that we're in it, it doesn't feel that bad to me. It feels kind of like a roller coaster of like things keep coming up, but then I quickly am able to like process it or transmute it, or I don't know. It just feels like we're compartmentalizing things.
Because it's in Virgo, maybe? Is that why you feel like
guess. I mean, Virgo is an earth sign, so it's grounded and rooted. So it's a good thing to kind of have a tether and an anchor when you're potentially facing something that is challenging. So that's happening at 3 o'clock this morning, if anybody wants to set an alarm.
So when you get up to go pee tonight, look out the window.
Out the sky. It might be red. Sometimes a lunar eclipse is red. That's why they call it a blood moon.
Cool.
So Saturday, March 15th, Mercury goes retrograde in Aries. Then March 20th, the sun moves into Aries. So we're leaving Pisces water season and entering fiery Aries. Spring equinox is the 21st. So we're in spring.
A lot of fire.
Yeah. It's time so much fire.
Get going.
And then more Aries. We have on the 29th, our new moon solar eclipse on March 29th. So this is also in Aries, and this is really the like burn it down or heat things up.
Wow.
Then one last really big thing that's happening this month, March 30th, Neptune is moving into Aries. Neptune's been in Pisces since 2011. And we have all experienced collectively this like new age spiritual awakening with Neptune and Pisces. Neptune is Aries, and Aries is like the spring of Neptune. It's starting a whole new cycle for Neptune, which a lot of astrologers are calling like the era of the peace or the spiritual warrior, because Mars and Aries is like war, and it's like, I don't know, putting on your spiritual armor and like really kind of making new changes in the realm of spirituality. We've seen people awakening up, and now I think we're going to see what are people are going to do with that. What is the world going to do with that?
It's a little scary.
Yeah, because it can be negative because it's Neptune is in Pisces is like delusion, so it can be people hungry with power and manipulating other people, but it can also be, you know, ushering in this new age.
Is it woo-woo people fighting for their right to be strange, or is it, you know, vanilla people like burning people at the stake again? I mean,
right. Well,
it could go either way.
It could be the magnets that are stopping the inhibitive part of the brain too. You never know.
So the whole month of March feels like either this dumpster fire or a forge from where we can shape and weld and transform and change.
The whole year. I mean, we talked about this before, but the whole year is, I think this is a very transformative year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Accelerated transformative year, because we've had a lot of transformative years, but I think this is like triple time.
Yep. Yeah. You were talking earlier in the week, Jenny, about how just not making any plans this year almost for you.
No,
right? Like it's just like
we're just
gonna let this year just play out.
We're gonna ride the wave, whether it's fire or water.
Yeah.
Or air or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever crazy things happen.
Yep.
Was there anything else we need to know about March?
This is the beginning of the dumpster fire of 2025. So there's more to come.
We've already been in it, so
there we go.
Throw in the crap you don't want. Does it?
Well, Alyson, we have two more. You know, when you talk about you have like two more wake ups or whatever. We have two more moon phase updates before we go to Team Weird Takeover. April and May.
That is
April.
Crazy.
We'll have May, and then I guess you can do the June one. Maybe we'll do that live over at.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That would be cool.
I'll see what we can do. But all right. So thank you so much for joining us, Alyson. We'll see you very soon.
Bye.
All right. And make sure you can go check out Alyson. We'll have all the information on where you can find Alyson down in the descriptions below. Over on YouTube as Priestess of Wonderland, all kinds of wonderful content being created in the Moon Phase Planner to be able to track all the stuff that we were talking about tonight. So, and I might as well mention we were talking about the Team Weird Takeover. The Team Weird Takeover tickets are for sale.
Yes.
So you can go to the witchinghourspodcast.com. You can go to the Team Weird Takeover, and it will take you down to the links to purchase the two different types of tickets that are available. One is the basic ticket, which gets you everything you need. You show up, you get into the event, you hang out with me and Jenny and Alyson and everyone else who wants to come, and you do everything.
And you get
the other one is and you get pizza and tacos. And then the other one is going to be the merch ticket, where you'll get a t-shirt and some extra special things that we're having created just for the event. And we look forward to seeing all of you who make it out. I think it's gonna be a great weekend. We're really looking forward to it. It's very exciting.
Yes.
We're gonna have a fun time.
And now,
Jenny McGurk is a psychic, spiritual guide, and intuitive artist. She uses hypnosis, NLP, EFT, and her natural intuition to help others heal and develop their own intuition. Her passion and highest excitement is to help guide others to discover their own unique inner intuition and develop a direct connection to spirit and source, I guess with or without magnets. After moving to Richmond in 1995 to attend university, where she graduated with a BFA degree, Jenny began working in the film industry as a seamstress and draper for 20 years. In 2017, she followed her highest excitement, left that career, and is now pursuing her lifelong passion for psychic development, energy healing, emotional freedom, and self-empowerment. In 2020, she studied at the Edgar Cayce Association for Research and Enlightenment. I'm excited to maybe talk about that some tonight, where she learned how to read others' auras and energetic fields. This, combined with her background in art, naturally developed into her aura readings, which she paints using watercolor. This, combined with her background in art, developed into the aura readings. She paints what she experiences from another person's energy, chakras, auric fields, spirit guides, past lives, and animal energies often come through. Each reading is different and full of surprises. When she is not studying and reading about ancient history, esoteric knowledge, painting, or homeschooling her kids, you can find her hiking historical haunts in her city and listening to Taylor Swift. Please welcome to the show, Jenny McGurk. How are you doing, Jenny?
Hello, how are you?
We're
We're
doing
so
well.
excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, last year we this was our second year at Hanover Tavern Paracon, and we had a great time last year, and then this year I felt like it just went even better. It was such a good event, and we got to meet you, and it's like one of those things where it's like happenstance is like, man, I feel like I'm supposed to. Like, I very rarely go get readings, and I was like, I don't know. I just felt kind of drawn. To me, it felt like something that was kind of supposed to happen. But I'm so glad that I did, because we ended up being able to talk a little bit, and so we're super excited to have you on tonight. I guess my first question for you, Jenny, would be, how did all this kind of start for you?
Wow. I mean, I think it's always been there as a kid. I was always in touch with things, picked up on things. I was aware. I was super observant of people. I remember thinking or hearing adults talk about things and just being like, they're so stupid. Like, like, how do we not know this stuff, And I was talking with my daughter today, about synesthesia. If you all know what that is, synesthesia is like the crossing over of your senses. So we're studying.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, we're
like
studying
hearing colors or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're
I've
studying
never heard of that.
Matisse, and Matisse painted the music that he heard. So many of his paintings are actually what he saw when he listened to music. And I got that. And as a kid, I don't know. I remember observing things that other people just didn't observe, and I didn't have words for it or understanding for it. So it's always in the background. My friends would always joke that I would just know stuff. I always knew when my friends were pregnant, sometimes before like they would know. And, being an artist and coming from a pretty, my family is Irish Catholic military, and my dad, I'm the youngest of four, and I was very artistic. My mother's father was very artistic also. So when I had artistic ability at a young age, my mom was just like, that's what you'll do. Like, don't worry, you got a D in math. Like, you're not going to be an engineer, It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very, they were, Irish Catholic military sounds very conservative and controlling, but they actually weren't. They were actually very open-minded, liberal parents. But my dad was like, go to art school, but just go and study something that you can get a real job in,
Mm-hmm.
And I love sewing. I always wanted to be different and look different. And so I learned how to sew at a young age. So I was like, well, already know how to sew, so I'll just do fashion design. Not interested in it at all. So, I graduated, and then pretty much like the story of my life, all of my jobs, they just kind of have found me. I never really went out looking for it. So I didn't set out to go into the film industry. It was just sort of a weird, like, I don't, you could say right place at the right time or wrong place at the right time. But yeah.
Which is kind of interesting, because I think like most people who who wind up in the film industry are probably really seeking it out. So it's, to just kind of wind up there is kind of different.
Yeah, I did not. I was working at the ballet and I was friends with someone who was in it, and that's a whole nother story. And if we have time, I can tell you that story. It's very weird, long story. And yeah, I just sort of fell into it, and it's exciting when you're young and you're working with actors and you're going places and doing stuff and getting paid a lot of money, and so I did it, and worked my way up. And then after about 15 17 years of it, I was just like, this is not what I want to be doing. Like, I found myself like, not, I know this sounds bad, but like I just didn't care, I just wasn't, my heart just wasn't in it. And so I decided to just stop working on big budget films. I still worked for a couple of years as like a stylist and a prop stylist for like commercials and things like that, and which was great too. And then a little bit before COVID, I just decided I was just going to take a year off and follow my highest excitement, which is, if anyone follows Daryl Anka and Bashar. So I followed his formula for a year, and I just took classes and did things that I love doing, and kind of stumbled into EFT and hypnosis and started seeing having clients. And then I took this class at the Edgar Cayce Institute, and it was all about psychic development. Because when you get into hypnosis, you get into the conscious and the unconscious mind. And there was a lot of similarities of like, what are we really tapping into here? And I started seeing these different correlations. And so I always kind of knew I was, intuitive. I could never say I was psychic. Like, I could never say that word, and I love the Edgar Cayce Institute. We are fortunate to live like so close to it. So I would go down there. I would try to go down there once a year. And so I took this class. It was a 4-day class. It was wonderful. This wonderful woman named Cindy Griffith taught it. She's still down there. She's still a wonderful psychic, teaching classes down there. And she, at the very end of it, she was like, got out colored pencils and was like, oh, let me teach you these soul maps that she does. And she had this drawing of a female and a male figure. And so she, we all kind of got into groups, and we would have 3 minutes with the person in front of us. And she taught us this very simple technique, and we did what she told us. And, she just was like, just start talking about or drawing or coloring what you're picking up in this other person's energy field. And so we just, I just started doing it, and it was just like everything clicked. Just so much stuff made sense. And like, I didn't understand what I was experiencing it, but when I said it out loud, the person in front of me would be like, how did you know that? Or, just, it just was, and we all would like move around the room and do, meet with everybody. And every single person that I sat in front of, it was just like, and you might know this too, Jenny, like it just felt right.
Yeah.
Like it felt like the accumulation of all the things that I've done in my life, like it felt like it just made sense.
Yeah. It's like bringing all the things, all the skills that you already had and putting it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just put it out on the internet. I was like, hey, learn to do this thing. I'm going to do 100 for free if anybody's interested. And I ended up doing 100. I think I did more than 100. And then, yeah, that's just it just shifted into that. And like I said, none of my jobs or professions that I went out seeking, it all just kind of found me.
So let's back up some.
Sure.
First of all, we have a lot of fans of Bashar in our community, so they totally know who you're talking about. But I wanted to go back to some of the things that you learned before you had that class, because I think I know maybe, but I'm not familiar. So what is EFT?
EFT is emotional freedom technique. Some people call it tapping. So it's like if you ever
Okay.
see people talking about like tapping, it's described as acupuncture without the needles.
Okay.
So it's the idea that like our mainly negative emotions live in our body. So it has a lot of like Chinese spaces in like Chinese medicine. But a simple way to explain it is like, you know, if you experience stress over a long period of time, it can show physical, you know, manifestations, you know, high blood pressure, you know, things like that.
So it's like a way to release all that built up.
Yeah. Yeah. So you like tap on different points, different meridian energy points, like the chi in your body, to release that. Yeah.
Interesting. I think I had heard about that before, but I couldn't remember what it was. And then there was another one in your bio that I don't know what that is either. What is NLP?
NLP is neuro-linguistic programming.
I don't know about that one.
You don't know about it, but you experience it every day. So neuro-linguistic programming is the study of our language, and it's also like studying what successful people do to be successful. And it can be used in a really positive way. It's something that goes very closely with hypnosis, because hypnosis is really about getting people to change their habits that are unconscious. So if you have a bad habit and you consciously know it, that it's bad for you, you can take the steps to change it. Hypnosis is beneficial for people who have habits like smoking, where you consciously know it, but underneath the surface, unconsciously, they believe that they're getting a benefit out of it. So it's harder to break. And NLP goes really well with that, because it's all about habit changing. It's all about being like the best you can be, and like the language that we use, and how our inner dialogue and our external dialogue affects the world around us. So you get a little bit into like manifesting with NLP. Have you ever heard of Tony Robbins?
Yes.
So all that stuff that Tony Robbins does is NLP.
Okay.
But then also it's used in negative ways. So like advertising, Instagram algorithms, all that, they use it, you know, to line their pockets, basically.
And then I wanted to go back too. So you learned how to do hypnosis, correct?
Yeah.
What did you use it for, and do you still use it?
So initially I took a 14-day free trial class, because I homeschool. We have 3 kids, and we homeschooled 2 now, but we've homeschooled them at different stages in their education. My 2 sons and my husband all have stutters. And so when we were in lockdown during COVID, I was like, I'm going to use this time to do stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not
like we all did, right?
Yeah. I'm not a good just kind of sit around person.
No.
I actually did like COVID. I actually did like
we did too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, it's hard to admit that, right? When the world is like falling apart.
It sounds evil,
but
yeah.
But we did. We enjoyed our time. And you know, so many people that we talked to had some sort of awakening in that time, because they had the time to actually do things for themselves. So many people did things that they would have never had a chance to do. So there was a lot of positive things about it.
Yeah. I think that it made people, I think people who enjoyed it, it gave them a time to discover more of themselves.
Yep.
I think people that had a really hard time with it was because they struggled with who they really are. And they were kind of forced to like, it was like a mirror, like, who are you? And maybe they didn't really like a lot of what they saw in that.
Yeah.
I was just getting ready to say, because us, especially like for us talking tonight, like Jenny, you're an artist, and then Medium Jenny is an artist, and then like I'm a musician and like I like to create, podcasts, whatever. Like I like to be creative. And I think people who like to be creative probably enjoyed that time to be creative that
Yeah.
we normally don't get. Like right now, we're back at it again. And I'm like, man, I want to do like another night or something. But it's like
There's no
you gotta
time.
be you're like you gotta fit it into this rigid kind of schedule. It makes it more difficult. So I think especially for people who are creative, people who are artists, people who want to like try new things. It was there were positive aspects of that
There were
time.
positive aspects, yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you took the free course.
So I
And
took
did
the
you
fr- I
take
did
it like thinking that you're going to try to help them with their stutter?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I did the 14-day free course to see, what was it all about? Could it help my kids with their stutter? And like after a week or two, I was like, I'm signing up for the whole course. And so that's what I did. Over the course of like 8 or 9 months, I guess, I went all the way in and got fully certified. And then, and another thing that was positive for me about COVID is that everything I was doing, I could do online.
Yep.
Mhm.
So and there were so many people that needed that and were craving that. So, yeah, I started seeing clients for, smoking, weight loss, those things that hypnosis is known for. And then when I kind of became more comfortable with my, my psychic witchiness, and I was being more vocal about some of my experiences, I started getting asked a lot about past life regressions. So, so then I got another certification in past life regressions and did quite a bit of those for a while.
Cool. So did it help their stutter?
It did, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Help their stutter. And interesting things about stutter is that both of them, when they kind of got on the other end of puberty, it didn't completely go away, but it kind of dissipated a little bit and then changed a little bit. And then the reason why I found it so fascinating, the reason why I initially connected hypnosis to stuttering is because my husband has a stutter, and when our first son was born, his stutter completely went away for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So it was almost like there was a switch, something in his brain switched because, now he has this human he has to care for. And so his brain was just like, nope, we don't have time for that stuttering anymore.
It's really
Turn that
interesting.
off,
Wow.
and it creeps up here and there, but yeah.
Yeah, a stutter. I had to go to like a speech therapist when I was a kid because I had a bad stutter. I had to go for a few years, and then kind of like you said, as I went through my teenage years, it kind of went away. But even now, if I get like interrupted or I get like really, I don't know, like if I just have like a big emotional reaction to something, all of a sudden I'll like just start stammering really bad, and I'll have to like stop myself and be like, okay, let's reset
Yeah.
here for a moment, and it's fine. But yeah, it's really interesting because I feel like there's it's just such like one of those things where the brain does stuff, and we don't know why.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so interesting. Yeah.
So what was, I know that you talked a little bit about your class that you took at the Edgar
Yeah.
Casey Center, but what was your experience like there? Because even though we live close to it, I have never been there, which is so
I
sad.
know. I lived in Portsmouth, and I've never been there. Yeah.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted to make a day trip, just let me know.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got especially like that'd be cool in the summer too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, my family's been going down to Sandbridge since I was a teenager, and then my husband's family has a beach house there too. So
Nice.
pretty much most of my entire adult life, I've gone down there. So I was always kind of aware of it. I knew what it was. I didn't really know who he was or whatever. But if you do any kind of research on hypnosis or past life regression or psychic ability, Edgar Casey is going to come up somewhere. And so I realized there was such an incredible resource that we have down there. Yeah, the class was amazing. I mean, it was it went through all of the, the hits for, psychic development, like all the clairs and understanding the chakras. And it was 4 days, and I think it was like 6 to 8 hours a day. So it was pretty intensive.
Yeah,
and
that is intensive.
Yeah, it was a nice small group. So we all got to kind of know each
Mm-hmm.
other, and everybody there had their own, individual, like, kind of superpower.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was interesting to meet other people. The thing that was most like, I think that I enjoyed most is that it was a room full of people that you could say that you're psychic. You could say all of these things, and it was just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's a
It
safe
wasn't a big
space.
deal. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're all there for the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I experienced that too with medium courses, where it's like we're all there learning the same thing and it's a safe place, but everybody had their own specialty, like something that they were really good at that, it just differed. So I totally get that. So then, okay, so you learned this aura technique. And I think that most of the people that would be watching this know what an aura is, but in case there isn't somebody, what is an aura?
What is an aura? Yeah.
So your aura is, I think most people, or, it's the colors that a lot of people have seen like aura photography, where it's kind of this, glow that people have, or it's most often associated with colors.
Mm-hmm.
My readings are the aura as more like energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see like the colors associated with that person, and the colors are going to be symbolic, similar to your chakras, but not always. It can be different, and your chakras will come through also. The more I'm doing them, and the longer and the deeper I get into it, and also too, if I have someone that I've read multiple times, and I've actually read, right now I'm reading a family group, and it just gets very layered and very rich as to what their energy comes through. But I pick up on a lot of past lives, spirit guides, messages from past over loved ones come through. A lot of it's kind of like a potpourri, a mixed bag of stuff. Yeah.
I love that, because that's what happens to me. And I feel like I struggled with this a lot when I was learning how to be a medium, because I was learning how to be an evidential medium. And evidential mediums have to find evidence to prove to their sitter that they're talking to the loved one on the other side. But as I started doing more and more readings, more and more weird things started happening. And at first it was really hard for me, because I was like, well, this is not what I learned, and I don't know how to navigate this. But I would always let whatever it was come through. But now I know that that is perfectly fine and normal. So to have another person say that all of these things happen to me too, when I'm giving somebody a reading, just makes me feel better about my journey through all of that,
I was going to ask, Jenny, but I'll ask Jenny too.
Jenny squared.
Have either of you ever seen colors, like, or for auras with people? Like when that's just something that you notice about a person?
Like
colors specifically?
Like in real
you
life?
see, do you just see people's auras like regularly?
Like a color?
So most of my abilities are all internal.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last couple of weeks, I have actually been like seeing shadows and things. And then I had a very interesting connection with a friend of mine, where I was talking about it, and then she lucid dreams, and I don't dream at all. I mean, I do dream, but I just don't remember them.
Yeah.
And then that night I had a lucid dream.
Oh, wow.
and it answered questions that her and I were talking about in a real conversation. It was very bizarre.
That's cool.
Yeah. But so I sometimes when I meet people, I will pick up on colors. Oftentimes they have illnesses, like I'll see gray. I know one person in particular that I've worked with, and he has a gray aura, and he's has an illness.
Yeah.
So sometimes like that.
But like for you, it's in your mind's eye that
Yeah.
you're seeing the colors, which I think that because there's so many, there's just not enough great, like the English language is lacking. So like we talk about seeing, but I think most people that see auras see it in their mind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's same thing with ghosts and things. It's like, how many times are you seeing something with your actual eyes versus seeing it in your mind's eye? It's like, it's very different.
Yeah, it is. I've always been curious about that, though. I know I brought up with you before, Medium Jenny, but I think there was some long ago in the distant past. We were at some get together or a party or something, and I remember someone saying, like, I caught it out of the corner, like it was on the other side of the room or something. I heard someone say, you see colors too, right? And so then like I was like automatically attracted to the conversation.
You're like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. I was like, and they said something about that person was blue or something like that. And the person was like, and it's like the other person knew exactly what they meant. And it was like a normal thing for them to like associate color with a person, like red or yellow or whatever. So I was just curious because I can't remember who it was who said that now. It's been so long ago.
Yeah, I think I remember.
I'd love to talk to him about it now.
I do not see auras with my eyes or with my mind's eye, but I've also never, tried it or taken a class on it or been trained to do it either. But it's definitely not something that happens for me. So I had a couple questions about auras and color, since we're still in that topic.
Since we're there,
since we're here. So when you were taking the class, did you learn that like certain colors meant certain things, or was it more? Because I know for you now, it's like it seems like it's certain colors mean things to you and they bring up other information. But when you were learning about it, were you taught that like certain colors mean certain things?
We were taught that mostly correlating with the chakras.
Okay.
And then taught things like, someone who is like has the ability to heal with their hands. They'll have green in their hands because that's the color of the heart chakra. And things like that. Sorry, my cat is in the background.
That's okay. Our cat and dog are always causing trouble.
But yeah, I mean, it was most focused on the colors as they relate to the chakras. And then if you see, if you see someone who has a lot of purple, it's going to be, okay, they're very connected to spirituality because that's the crown chakra, a lot of men have a lot of yellow in their auras because that's the solar plexus. And sorry, guys, but that's like their personal will, and men exert themselves onto, we live in a patriarchal society.
Yes.
So it's like ego, but, not in a necessarily negative way.
Or sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time when I read kids, their most predominant aura color is pink because it's the heart chakra, but it's like innocent. And so it's like they're just love, but it's like an innocent love.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
I like that. So there are specific things for specific colors, but then for you too, as you're reading that color, that's when like it means something different for you too. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I think I may have talked about this when we met at the Paracon. I have what I call spiritual ADD. I've like been into everything at some point. Like when I was in my teens, I was super into crystals. I was super into witchcraft and spells and I'm gonna have to let my cat out. Hold on.
You're fine. Well, so let's go ahead and take the opportunity to reset real quick.
Yeah, go
If you've
ahead.
joined us since the beginning of the show, welcome in. We're glad to have you. Tonight, our guest is Jenny McGurk, and we are talking about auras. We're talking about spirituality. We're learning about all kinds of things that we're discussing tonight. If you have a question for Jenny as the show goes along, make sure you put the question in chat, and we will pass that along to her. We'll get them throughout the show, but especially once we get down to about, I don't know, the bottom of the 9:30 hour when we're getting, we'll definitely start speed running questions. If you have them in chat, if you're in Twitch chat, make sure you can use your channel points to highlight your message. It makes it a little bit easier to see, but we'll get there. All right. So, and also, let me say real quick, the website that I have is jennymcgurk.com. That's JENNYMCGURK.com, and that'll be listed for you listening later down in the description below.
For you here now, it's posted at the top of Twitch, and it's in the comments for YouTube and.
Excellent.
Okay, what were you talking about?
So, spiritual ADD.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, what?
I've been kind of like,
What were we talking about? Oh yeah.
I've just been into a lot of different stuff, and like I will go down rabbit holes, which I think a lot of us in this, theme go into. I'm a really avid reader, but before that, backing up, I have dyslexia. And in high school, I was not a good student. And when I was planning my honeymoon, so it was 20 years ago, in May, will be 20 years. We were planning our honeymoon, and I was reading The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Which is actually I just looked down, and it's the book that's holding my computer up right now.
No coincidence.
Yeah. I was reading it, and I was so enthralled with the story that my dyslexia was gone. I mean, it's always there, but it didn't. Yeah. And I got so immersed into, if you've read the Da Vinci Code or seen it, I got super into Freemasonry and the Templars and all that stuff. And so our honeymoon, we toured all the places in the Da Vinci Code in the book.
That's so cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I've been into a lot of different.
Well, thank you, Dan Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And I kind of would get frustrated. Like, why am I so into something for months at a time? I mean, all consuming. And then one day I'm just not. And then I just move on to the other thing. And I would get frustrated with myself and my guides. And I would be like, why can't I just pick one thing, it's so frustrating. But when I started doing aura readings, I would see things and I would be like, oh, I know what that is because I read a weird book about it.
Read all of the things.
Yeah. And then, and it kept happening. And so I asked my guides one day, I was like, is this why I have? And they're like, yeah. So it was I was precognitively learning information that years down the road, I would need to pull from because I would encounter people that had
Isn't that so wonderful to be able to look back and see, make those connections? So, it was all for a reason, even if we couldn't understand it at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I just kind of whatever weird rabbit hole, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm. I don't know why.
I need to know this.
Yeah.
kind of being led along.
I just kind of, I'm taking a break from, I have a little bit of an obsession with World War II. So I'm taking a little bit of a break because it can be pretty heavy. Yeah. And my husband is kind of like, can we not watch stuff about this? Can we?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we just watch an Adam Sandler movie?
Right. Can we just look like the Greatest Gemstones or something and not something about Hitler? But
yeah. No, it's very interesting. I can kind of identify with that a little bit. I think we talked a little bit about that when we met at the Hanover Tavern, but it's it's like one of those things where it's kind of the same way. Like I jump from thing to thing, and like I always tell people, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of aspect to things. Like I'll get super into something and I'll learn just enough about it to kind of understand how it works a little bit, and then I move on to something else. But I'm starting to see that all of those gave me a little bit of skills that I need to be able to do like certain things, like run a podcast or whatever. So it is interesting how it has a setup for that, and I've seen a couple of other people also talk about in chat too that I think it was Alyson. Yeah. So wow, I think I have that too. And then the real Mr. World was saying the same thing, kind of like this idea that yeah, we could very much be kind of a lot of people kind of having those same things. Like we're being led down a path possibly to gain certain skills that we're going to need for like our final form or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's something that gets brought up a lot for me and my readings is, and I think, oops, sorry, I'm trying to delete these things. I think I've come up with a term for it, and I'm probably not the first person to say this, but I like to call it the seeking. It's like we have some experience in our life, or we have multiple experiences in our life, and we want to know what the hell was that. So then we start looking for it, and that's what leads us down these rabbit holes, these paths that help us find the things that we're supposed to connect with for whatever reason. But then when we can find the reason and we see the reason, that like it makes that even more exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not always like evident, like, I mean, I've just started realizing that, for me, at this point, it's like, well, I did all these things, and it's like kind of sad when a chapter closes, It's like, well, why did I spend all this time doing that thing, and now I'm not interested in it anymore, or there's not a way for me to do it anymore, or whatever. Like I built this skill that I don't have, but you never know that you're not going to use it again.
Yeah. Or use it in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So for those, because me and Frosty know what your aura paintings look like because we got readings from you, which were awesome. But for those who don't know, you kind of you explain it a little bit when you were talking about the class, like there's the figure, the form of the human. But then for you, what comes next and how does that kind of build out? And also, I know this is a lot of questions in one question. How do they all kind of end up looking similar, or do some just like, are they very different from each other based on the person?
Yeah, so I always start out with that same body graph that Cindy gave us that day. I have a male and a female, but I also have like a non-binary one also that, I always let people pick, for whatever they're comfortable with. For those are kind of afraid that the market ones, and I did start out I did stick to using those for my bigger readings. So the market readings are like 10 or 20-minute readings, which you all experienced, and then
well, you gave us longer readings, but yeah. They were supposed to be.
Yeah, that happens. I really like talking, and when I get to talk with people that like get me and like we're in, I'm like, no, don't leave yet. But yeah, the other readings that I do outside of market readings are longer. They're 45 minutes and their paintings are more elaborate. I do always start out with that basic body graph, but I would say in the last like 6 to 7 months, I've kind of moved away from it, and they're kind of all over the place. I have a couple here. I can maybe pull out and show you. I just mailed a bunch yesterday, so I don't have a lot of them with me. But yeah, I mean, the way I do it, I have like a quick little meditation that I do. And I'm pretty sure it's on my website. If it's not on my website, I think it's on my Instagram. the meditation that I do for every single reading, and it's the one that I learned at the Edgar Cayce Institute. I have it available for free. Anybody can listen to it. It's a 12-minute meditation. I kind of do it quicker. I do it. I mean, you guys experience. It takes me like it's just like 10 seconds to do it. But I do the meditation, and I always just am like, I always say whatever is the most important information to come through for this person, allow that to come through.
Yeah.
And, I've started kind of gauging how open people are by how quickly the information comes through. Like I did a reading earlier, just right a little bit before I got on the call with you. I was doing a reading, and before I even finished my meditation, it was like I was like writing, like I was like stuff was just coming in. And this is someone who I've read her children, reading relationships. I've read her father, so I've already got that connection. And this person is also works as a psychic too. So it flows more free. And then, some people book readings with me and I have no idea who they are. All I know is their name and where they're from. That's all I need to know. Or maybe it was gifted to them by someone. So maybe they're like, someone got a reading and they're like, oh, my friend would really enjoy this, but maybe their friend isn't quite as open to some of these ideas. Yeah. And it's not that I can't read that person's energy, but it feels thicker. It just doesn't flow as much.
I wonder if that's partly because spirit, source, energy, whatever, knows that there's certain information that they can handle at that time.
Yeah. And I asked that too. And it's not all love and light. I see some darker things, and I always ask, like, how is this person, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much can this person handle this information? And sometimes they're like, go for it, like, and sometimes they're like, put the kid gloves on and deliver it like in a nice little soft package. Yeah. But it's always there. The message is always give them the information. I've never been told don't. It's always give it, but you choose your wording carefully. And oftentimes when there's some kind of darker stuff comes through and the guides are like, no, deliver it to them however you see fit. And I tell the person and they're like, oh yeah, totally. Like you totally know it,
Yeah.
But as far as like how it comes through, everyone is different. Like every single one, like sometimes they're just colors, sometimes they're images. Sometimes I will see things and symbols, and I'm not sure. It's like a feeling is attached to it, and so I kind of go through my Rolodex. Am I tapping into a past life? No. Okay. Is this a passed over loved one? Yes. I'm like, okay, so I kind of have this like checks, Q&A that I do back and forth to try and figure it out. And sometimes it's not always clear. And I write questions and question marks so that then when the person is in front of me, I'm like, this, like I had a reading the other day and these hands came through and it was like, I was unsure what it was. And so I started talking about it and he was like, oh, I know what that means. No, it was personal to him. So kind of like what you were saying, when you were doing this work and things would come up and you didn't know what they meant or whatever, I've learned that like even if I don't understand it, I always say it. Because so many times the person in front of me completely understands it. So,
it can be something very bizarre and you have no idea that could mean something, and then it does mean something very significant.
Yeah. And I think that's why I always go back to Bashar's teachings, is that he's channeling information, and that's what we're doing. And so I always try and, ask myself to step aside and just let the information come through and be what it is.
Yeah. That's the way to do it.
So I saw in the bio it talked about how sometimes through these readings you also get like animal energies and stuff like
Mhm.
that come through. Can you talk about, is that something that happens on a regular basis, and also like what kind of information do you get from those typically?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it'll come through. I've definitely have like pets come through. A lot of times pets that have passed away will come through with information as a confirmation to let that person know that I'm connecting with something,
Mm,
Even when people get readings, some people are still skeptical. So
yeah.
oftentimes things will come through just to let that person know, okay, she's really, tapping into something here. And so here's this pet that I can identify that they had as a child. How am I going to know that? I don't know. And then it
Mm,
kind of relaxes the person to be like, oh, and now here's this information that she's going to tell me, and this is what I should pay attention to. But also too, like, the kind of Native American idea of like spirit animals.
I was
mhm.
wondering if that was part of it too.
It is. I don't necessarily like to use that term because I don't think we kind of like understand it a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess we kind of talk about it as a meme, like,
yeah,
right? Like, yeah,
yeah. Or like people are like, "What's my spirit animal?" I'm like,
yeah,
Mhm.
well, it's not really like that.
yeah.
But I think animals come through because they're archetypal symbols. They represent
Mhm.
things. So it's a way to kind of connect someone to energy, right?
So
Mm,
Uh,
what's an example of one that's come through for someone?
owls. Owls come through a lot.
Mhm.
Um, birds come through a lot. Birds are messengers. And birds symbolize, different species of birds symbolize things in different cultures, vultures in Mediterranean cultures are symbolized like rebirth. Butterflies often come through, transformation, death, rebirth cycles, things like that. So, if someone is like having questions about a relationship and maybe, a butterfly comes through or a caterpillar comes through, it can be a sign that like that relationship is going through some sort of, transformation. It might be
Yeah.
on the low swing right now, but eventually, it will turn into this beautiful butterfly. So
It's almost like you're seeing the imagery of like a tarot card show up
yeah,
for the person's reading.
yeah,
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 because a tarot card always has those things, like
yeah.
this thing symbolizes that. And yeah, that's
mhm,
interesting.
Yeah, it's so much of my readings are symbolic, and there's a lot of metaphor. Um, Fairy tales come through a lot, and movie references will come through a lot because that's just how that person can receive
mm,
that information. If they're not
Mhm.
versed in what we're used to, the
Yeah.
words and the connections, you know, for some reason, Alice in Wonderland and the Wizard of Oz come through a lot for women.
Mhm.
And it's like it's so guttural. Like people connect with that in their own personal, we all kind of have a personal connection to those movies that mean
Yeah.
different things. But yeah, it's all a lot of metaphor comes through.
that's
Interesting.
so many synchronicities. Because that's like how Alyson, who came on to do the thing, the moon phases earlier. That's how we got to know her, because it's like the Wonderland, and Jenny was like super into,
Yeah, I love Alice in
yeah,
Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. So it's like, yeah, that's something that is always a huge,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's how we found each other, and it turned out we
yeah,
have the same birthday.
yeah.
Oh wow.
I can't say that enough. I don't know why it's so funny. Okay, so let's go through. We've been talking about it quite a bit, but I think we can dive a little bit deeper into the different things that come through.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
what kind of information do you get when information comes through for people's chakras?
Mm.
Um, it's a lot about kind of their current state, and it dips its toe really into like health
Hmm.
readings a
I was
lot.
wondering if it was like more physical things.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Um, And also it's kind of like their present state, you know. And I say that with a caveat of like, sometimes people will book a reading and then they'll email me that morning and be like, I've got the flu, don't do my reading. And I'm like, no, it's okay. For some reason, people get really nervous if they're, because sometimes they want to know because I do them remotely. You don't have to be in front of me.
Yeah.
For some reason, people, it's across the board, are concerned if they're going to be flying, if they're going to be in an airplane, and they don't want the reading done then. And I'm like, no, it's okay, you know? So it's not like remote viewing. Like, I don't know what you're doing. I can't see.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chakras I find more connected to very like immediate emotional states, what they're going through, and a lot of health readings, which I'm very, very cautious of talking about health stuff with people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want somebody to not do something because of something that I said, or to do something because of what I said that, you know, would be a different path of healing.
Yeah.
So
you always have to be like, I'm not a doctor or a
I'm not a
psychologist
doctor.
or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But I'm seeing this.
Yeah. But on that
now go see the doctor.
Right. Yeah. I have picked up on things, and people have gone and got it checked out, and it's been pretty on point. So I'm learning more ways, kind of in the NLP, like neuro-linguistic programming, correct words and phrases to say so that the information can be given to them, but in a way where they handle it responsibly.
Yeah. It's always a tricky one. Okay, next. Let's see. How is the best way to describe this? Let's ask it this way. How do you experience people's spirit guides?
Sometimes it comes through, I mean, most of the time as an image. And I kind of will do that like Q&A, you know, and I ask, you know, if a guide doesn't come through immediately, I'll ask, are there any guides with this person? And they'll come through as images, colors, shapes, you know, archangels come through quite a bit, things like that. Passed over loved ones are really often our guides. I would say 90% of the time it's the person's higher self is their guide. But yeah, I kind of developed this like Q&A in my head. Like, I'll see something and I'll just ask, like, is this a past life? No. Is this, you know, and I get, and I think we talked about this too. I get like a physical body response for a yes. I get, I call it like spidey sense. It feels like kind of like goosebumps, but it's like not cold. And it sometimes will run up my back. And then if I'm doing like paranormal investigations and I'm actually in a space where there are like spirits and ghosts, sometimes my eyes will start watering. Like it'll go up my back and over my head, and then it'll make my eyes water. And then a no to me is like really dense, and like my body actually like moves away from it. So if I'm reading somebody and you know, something comes up and I'm like, you know, is this your spirit guide? Is this person's spirit guide, or is this past life? It's just kind of flat. Or I just feel kind of pulled away from it. That would be like my no.
That's something that gets brought up a lot, that we talk about a lot, and I teach in my classes, is the physical reaction in your body. It's like, if you're feeling something in your body, it means something. And it's usually trying to make you aware that it's for real, you know, like it's not nothing. So yeah, but I think everybody experiences it differently.
So there was one thing that was interesting there that I wanted to follow up on, which was, you said for some people, like their spirit guide can just be their higher self. Is it possible to not have any spirit guides other than just your higher self, or how does that work necessarily in your experience?
I think we all have multiple guides that come and go, you know. I think we probably all have hundreds of them. I think they're everywhere. I'm a really big believer in animism, where everything has energy and everything has a spirit. The tape on my desk or the water or the bottle, everything has an energy to it. And I think that there are so many dimensions and parallel realities and worlds out there that we have no clue about, and they see us and they're constantly interacting with us, alien energies, all sorts of stuff, and we just aren't aware of it, and they're just constantly interacting with us. So like a spirit guide to me could also be a parallel universe that's filled with just dolphins, and those dolphins are looking out for this person and this person. For whatever reason they connect with that dolphin energy. I think it's probably infinite of how many guides that we all have. And then for whatever our personal experiences in life, we will identify with one or two, because I think that, we're human and it's overwhelming. I think that it's probably part of the reason why, not everybody walks around like this all the time. Because we would, we would plug our ears and like rock in the corner.
Yeah.
And
there's like the biases that go along with it.
Yeah. When I really started getting into this and being like let the flood doors open, like I called it in. I was like, bring in the synchronicities, bringing it all in. Like, I want to know everything now. And it was really overwhelming. And I had to learn how to not let everything in all at once. I would wear hats everywhere I would go to like block everything out. But yeah, I think to answer your question, I think that everybody has at least one, if not probably 1,000 guides. Yeah.
Wow.
How do you experience people's higher selves?
I mean, I think really when I do the readings, it's the main information that's coming through, because I'm asking that person's energy. What is the most important thing that this person needs to know right now? And that their higher self is going to be the one most connected with that information. Because it's really that it's a channel where I'm connecting with my guides. I ask permission to connect with the other person's guides. And then we kind of go back and forth in like a conversation.
Yeah. I've experienced higher selves a lot of different ways. And they started out very visual for me, where like I would see the person I was reading for, but they would show up in different ways, that like the things that they were showing up with or wearing were symbolic to what they were going to talk about. It was very interesting.
Well,
but over time, it's kind of the imagery's kind of gone away, I guess, because I know what the energy feels like now. That was my way to get into it. But it was always interesting to see the person that I'm reading for with like a feather boa or a leather jacket or like whatever. Like it's interesting.
That is interesting, and it's so interesting how it like evolves. For you, like it, yeah.
My stuff is always changing. Is that the way for you too?
Yeah, it does. It feels like it is interesting too, because sometimes it changes, and I'm like, oh, is it gone? Did I lose it?
Yeah.
But
nope, it's just different.
Yeah, it just morphs in a different way.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Well, I mean, I guess to a certain extent too, because like I feel like there's also like a honing that's gone into the influence. I feel like it gets I mean, with that, because like without talking much too, like just the idea of like when you first figured out how to kind of turn things off for you, that was like a big thing. So that's going to completely be a game changer. Was that ever an issue for you, Jenny, by the way? Like, did you ever have a time where you ever like, there's too much? Well, you were just talking about with the hat and everything, like there's kind of too much coming in. What was that process like for you if that did happen, where you kind of had to learn how to have the light on and the light off?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had experiences like since I was a kid, and I've had like paranormal experiences. I've had ghost stuff, and I was kind of like go away, like I don't want to know. Just go away, just leave me alone. I don't want to. It's scary, and I don't know what this is, and I don't know how to deal with it yet, and just leave me alone. So I would push them all away, and then when it was apparent to me that this is just this is what I'm here to do, and this is what's happening, and I just let it flow. I'm in my car a lot, not so much anymore, but I used to be in my car a lot because my gym, which was out in like Powhatan, it was like 20 minutes drive from my house, and I used to do CrossFit. And I would go like 4 or 5 times a week. So I was in my car a lot, and with no kids too, because I've always had kids with me. So my car was like my meditation chamber, and I would have all these thoughts, and I would drive, and I would talk to my guides. I would talk and I would just, kind of go over these experiences that I was having. So I've had a lot of like epiphany moments in my car.
Mine is the shower. That's the only time I get quiet time. Yeah.
Yep. The meditation chamber in the shower. Yeah, that's a good one too. But I remember one day I was driving home from the gym, and I was actively called in like synchronicities because I loved it. I love synchronicities. So it was like, just, I want as many as and it became overwhelming. I was having like 34, and I was keeping track of it, writing it down. So I was having like 30 or 40 of these synchronicities every day. And I would like text my husband, like, you wouldn't believe what happened. And then this happened. Da, da, da. And after a while, he was just like, okay, I get it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. But it got overwhelming to me too, because it was constantly like, okay, this is cool, but what do I do with all this information? Like, why is this happening? So I was in my car one day, and I just
asked for it.
Yeah, right. I just kind of screamed in my car, okay, I get it, stop. And it did.
Yeah.
And like, I would have a few, but it wasn't. And I was like, oh, I have control over this. And as simple as it is, it's just saying it. It's just saying, I'm with my kids right now. I don't want to be bothered with you. Or like with spirits and ghosts, I'm going to bed right now.
Yep.
No one's allowed to show up at the foot of my bed.
That was my biggest issue, was 3 o'clock wake up calls from people wanting to talk to me. I'm like, no, I have to sleep. Setting the boundaries.
I have a great mentor in Richmond. Her name's Carol Louie. She runs, she does a lot of reincarnation stuff. She has a lot of books. She's amazing. And I was talking to her about it one day, and she was just like, she goes, just tell them to make an appointment.
Yeah.
It was like,
oh
yeah. So I started doing that. And then really when I started doing the readings, someone makes an appointment, and I have to, it's like a job. I have to schedule it. I had 2 today, and I had to schedule it. And, and so I had to learn how to call it in, and then, not just call it in, but then when I was done, I have to cut the cord with that person. And that took me a while too, because I wasn't properly cutting the cords of people's energy. And then I would go about my day, and stuff from their reading would show up in my life. And I would be like, oh, that's weird. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't cut the, I didn't, and just simple, I have candles, blow the candles out, cut the cord, open the door and let it out,
So for those who might not know what you mean, what do you mean by cutting the cord?
So when I cut, like cord cutting, when you connect with someone, like in a reading, a tarot reading or any kind of reading, when you have a relationship with someone, you work with people, anything, you develop these like invisible energetic cords, some good, some bad. toxic relationships you can cut cords to, or you can have cords with. And so there's lots of ways of cord cutting. The hypnosis is one way, but really just the intention behind it. So like in a reading, if you have a toxic relationship with someone that maybe you were married to for 20 years and have children with, that might be a little bit more difficult cord to cut than, in a reading sense. But when I'm done with a reading here, I light candles in all 4 directions. I blow them out, and then I open my door and I let the smoke out. And then I literally just wipe my hand in front of my body, behind my body, and I say the person's name, and I just say the person's name. John Doe's energy is I'm energetically cut from that person, and I just kind of go like that, and then I leave. Yeah.
Interesting. Everybody's got different ways of doing all the things, and I love everybody's little rituals.
I wanted to mention before we get away from it, because you guys were talking about like how it wasn't always the appropriate time, like at 3:00 in the morning or wherever you're at, having to deal with it. And, after taking your mediumship class, Jenny, I had that one, where I was in the car. I was on my way home, I'm like driving the car, and all of a sudden I get like a hey, like hold on a second. And that happened a couple times, but I just wanted to mention, since we're talking about it again, it happened again like the night before last.
Oh, really?
Except it was you calling my name.
Me?
We've already talked, and I usually talk to Jenny when I had my reading. I don't really remember my dreams, but it woke me up. Your voice, woke me up. But then when I woke up, I realized that it was somebody trying to wake me up to talk to me.
Oh.
And they used your voice to get me out of my sleep. Yeah. So that just happened the other night, and it was probably like 2-3 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Yikes.
So that's like so like I don't have a lot of experience with this, but it always seems like it happens at very inappropriate times.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know if there ever would be, because like I feel like I'm always doing, you almost have to set that time where you are going to be able to receive, or else like there's no, I don't know. That's something like I'm just starting to deal with a little bit on my own. So I'll have to take your what you guys are doing advice into it, I guess, if that starts happening more. Like not on my drive home in traffic, and not
please don't wake me up at 3 o'clock.
Not at 2:30 in the morning, or like whatever. Not
just
during the witching hours.
Just because I do a witching hours podcast doesn't mean I want to talk to you in the witching hours.
Yeah, I guess we could do live interviews on the witching hours. All right, hold on a second. We got something coming through.
All right, guys, down to the last 25 minutes. If you have questions for Jenny, please put them in the chat.
Yep. And I wanted to talk about one thing for sure. I wanted to hit on something. We talked about a little bit, but past life.
That was my next question.
Coming through in your readings. Oh, we're on the same page. There we go. Tell us a little bit about that. I'm super interested in past lives. We talked about the wonderfulness of Virginia of having the Edgar Cayce Institute down there. We also have the UVA, which does a lot of work with reincarnation and like the idea of, I guess, past lives and things like that. So how does that come through in your readings? Is it kind of similar to past life regressions, or is it different from that?
I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's probably like my favorite part of readings.
Me too.
And even Ian Stevenson that we have in Virginia, and the woman that I mentioned, Carol Louie, she actually was one of his, I think she was one of his subjects or worked with him. I think that my personal remembrances of past lives, that has been this golden thread my entire life. Since I was maybe like 10 or 11 years old, I have like really deeply been interested in certain things, and no one else around me was, and it never made sense. It was always like weird or whatever, and when I can look back on all of it, it's all connected.
Do you think that for people that might find that they're in a similar situation where like they have a weird interest that they can't explain, do you think that most of the time it is pointing to a past life?
Definitely. I think that if you're interested in a time period that, you know, like that's not modern. If you're interested in like in a genre of music, or if you like to dress in a style of clothing that's not modern, or jewelry or hairstyle or some, anything like that. That's really what kind of was a catalyst for me remembering one of my past lives. And I had a very visceral memory, remembrance of a past life that I had when I looked at a photograph from that time period. And it was so overwhelming. I saw a photograph of this. Going to talk about World War II.
I thought that's where we were going. We're circling back.
I saw a photograph of some women in the Holocaust at one of the camps, and it's a very emotional photograph to look at. It's very disheartening to look at it, and very sad. And I saw it, and it made me. I'm not a depressed person. Like, I've never dealt with depression, or I just never have. I've always been pretty happy-go-lucky, calm. I've never dealt with that. And I sunk into this deep, dark depression after I saw this photograph, and I couldn't shake it. And I would sob, not even looking at the photograph, just thinking of it. And it wouldn't leave my mind. And I was in my car one day, and I screamed. This is probably about, my daughter's 11. She was a baby. This is probably about, I'd say like 8 or 9 years ago. So I was in my car, and I just screamed. And this is before I really was into any of this stuff. And I just screamed. I said, "Am I in that photograph?" And it just, this voice that was my higher self. So it wasn't my voice, but it wasn't a voice that wasn't me, but it just said yes, like clear as day.
Oh my goodness.
In my head. Wow. And and as soon as it said yes, I just had a full body confirmation. I just knew that was true. And then I said, "Is my daughter in that photograph also?" And the voice said yes.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I remember going like, "I don't know who you are, but I believe you." And as soon as I did that, the sadness and the depression that I had went away. So wow. Yeah, I firmly believe, like, everything I've been interested, every artist, every movie, hypnosis thing, everything in my life that I've been super, super into, all relates back to Vienna, Austria, all of it. And it all kind of links back with, World War II. So I 100%, I tell people that, I do past life regressions, and I absolutely think that it's an amazing way to uncover those unconscious memories and to tap into that. But I think that we all have way more past life memories in our just day-to-day life. And we're not taught this stuff. So we don't make that connections. Yeah.
And it can be so easy to do. I won't get deep into it because I've talked about it a ton on this podcast, but the first time we did a regression, I really just wasn't expecting anything to happen. I was kind of skeptical of it. Not skeptical that there were past lives, but just skeptical that I would be able to see one, or, to experience one or whatever. And it just happened like, bam, super quick. It's like, and I was like almost in disbelief, of just how easily it seemed to come. And then of course you have to deal with the whole aspect of like, I guess whenever you talk about any psychic abilities, like there's like a trust that you have to put into it, right? Of knowing that it's not just like your inner dialogue or whatever that's creating these things. But I was flabbergasted by a lot of, and it's one of my favorite topics now. Really, I guess we're all kind of there, and I don't think that's just us either, because we've noticed. I know for that it seems to be really popular at a lot of the Paracons and stuff like that we go to now. Like the past lives is starting to be a
Or
bigger and
it
bigger
gets
topic.
brought up with so many different guests that come on the show.
Yeah.
Even ones that's not what we were talking about. It still gets brought up. Yeah.
And I was going to say something earlier too, because we were talking about bias, and one of the, I guess one of the things I kind of want to run by on that is, you were talking about Vienna, Austria. I've always had a connection with Norway, but that's like a this life thing, because I have like great grandparents that came over from Norway. It's been like, just like we have some traditions in my family that come from my Norwegian side of the family, and I always, when I was a little kid, I always thought it was uncool. Like Norway wasn't cool. They had the Olympics there that one time, and girl got her knee hit and all that stuff. But then it was like once I found like the Vikings and Norse mythology and those, I was like, oh, finally, like, part of my ancestry actually is like, pretty cool. And I, got into it, and I became really big into music that came out of Scandinavia and stuff like that. But now when I do past lives, sometimes I'll see that imagery and I shut it out. Because for me, I feel like if I were to see a past life where there was some kind of like some kind of Norse thing going on, I would think that I was influencing that, and I wouldn't be able to trust it. Do you think I'm right with that? Am I wrong with that? Like, is it bias?
I mean, I don't really think right or wrong. I think it's all, on the path, right? The thing about what you're talking about like influencing it, oftentimes in past life regressions, or even just in hypnosis in general, it's common for people to think that they're making it up. And as a hypnotist, we're trained to encourage that. And the more I think about it, and the more that I've, used that technique, and then in my own work with my own creativity, is that when you're making stuff up, you're using your imagination, and your imagination is connected to your creativity, and creativity is connected to everything. It's connected to the energy. It's connected to how we are all connected to the same source. So if it feels like you're making it up, I think you're on the right track.
Okay.
I think that we're taught, and we live in such a linear world where it's like, don't make things up. That's your imaginary, right? That's your imaginary friend. No, is it really? I don't know. I don't think that was my imaginary friend, So the idea of like making it up isn't a negative thing. Maybe we just need a different terminology or word for it.
Yeah.
But I think that feeling of, because I swear to God, every aura reading I do, I'm like, I'm making this up.
Until you get that, and then you get that wow moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just like, I mean, every single time I sit down to do it, I'm like, I don't know where this stuff comes from,
Yeah.
And I feel like I make stuff up all the time, and then I paint what I see and I write it down, and the person is like, oh yeah, or weeks or months later, they email me back and they're like, yeah, that weird thing, that was totally, So yeah, I mean, and also too, maybe the Norse connection, you already know that part of you. You already know that past life. So you don't need to be made aware of that in other situations. Like, you're already consciously aware of that past life.
Yeah.
And that connection. So if you're going to do past life regression, or if you're going to do work in that genre, there's so many other lives that you could connect with. I did a past life regression with one of Dolores Cannon's like proteges. Her name's Sarah Breckman Cosme. She's in Florida.
Yeah, Sarah Breckman Cosme.
Yeah, thank you. And I was like, oh, I'm going to see this whole life that I had in World War II, and I'm going to understand, like, I've also had a past life in like, like in the westward expansion, like Oregon Trail, like, I'm very connected to that also. So I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to like, nope, I had a past life as a man on a train. And totally out. I was like, okay. And then we were talking about it and she was like, well, did you know that? Have you ever experienced that before? I'm like, no. And she goes, well, that's why, because you didn't already know that,
you already knew the other stuff.
Yeah.
But see, that's the stuff to me, Jenny, that makes, I don't know, to me, it, I don't know, like to me, it gives it almost for myself, like more credibility when I get a past life that I'm like, what the heck was that? But like everything is so vivid. Like there was one where I was like somewhere in Eastern Europe and like the house was made out of like this purplish looking wood. And like, I was like living by myself and I died of a heart attack. And like, I saw this thing and I looked completely different. I was like short and had black hair. I just saw all this like vivid imagery. And I'm like, that was real. But I guess some of the problem I have with this sometimes I'm a Gemini. So like I do this stuff, but
say no more.
I'm also like a skeptic on the other side. So I'm like, I'm actively channeling, like doing like my first mediumship. And then like the other half of my twin is like, no, this is not enough proof or whatever. So I guess that's just a struggle I'll have to deal with.
Oh, that's funny.
I wanted to circle back around to the creativity as creation. Journey had this comment: imagination is creation, and each of us are the source of creation. None of this is real. It's all
none of this is real. None of this is real.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing I was thinking. It's like the way that you said it was very like I always say kind of the same thing, but I say it in a different way. So like the way that you said it was like putting more of those pieces together. It's like when we're using our creativity, we're tapping into creation because that's what this is all about. Everything is about creating. So yeah, that was a nice way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. We know about that. We talk about we were talking about thought forms the other day. So like, like all these things can be, brought in, like the creative part, like we know can have a real effect. So yeah.
So let's stay on the past life conversation here.
Yeah.
I know that I know some things about this, but for you and your experiences, what are some of the reasons why people need to see past lives, or how does it help them?
I mean, it can be the idea of like karma and dharma, it can be, the idea of like reincarnating in soul groups, where you have repeated patterns with people and you need to work them out. It can be catalysts to push you, in certain directions. I know that if I hadn't had some of the experiences that I've had with past lives, I know, honestly, I don't think I would be an artist. Like it was such a crucial, like I said, it's this golden string that's been pulling me along. I think that like the curiosity of it, could I have been somebody in a past life, or is that possible? It can be a catalyst to get people to ask questions, dive more into metaphysical, concepts, and expand their worldview of, what is going on. I think a lot, like for people that seek out past life regressions in a hypnosis, like formal setting, often it's because they have, physical pain that is unexplained by medical science. And they're not given the answers. They don't have the answers. And so they want to see if it could be, left over from a past life, or, why they continually have the same issues with romantic relationships, or, why they have turmoil relationships with their family members, things like that, answering questions that aren't, Googleable in our modern day society.
I was gonna. Have you ever had an experience where you feel you've met someone in your life that you've had a past life with before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My 3 children. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I know like me and Jenny, like I've had past life questions done and like we know I think we've had at least a couple lifetimes together before.
Yeah, I'm sure we keep
Um
finding each other.
yeah. I mean, I even got the plague for you. You know what I mean? I mean, that's
No,
pretty
no,
that's pretty you know what I mean?
you got the plague for me.
Yeah. It's taking care of you, you know? I know I got it, you know, I didn't see that part.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna assume.
Bring out your dead. Yeah.
No, there's been times where like, you know, just like, you know, I've always wondered, there's been times where like, you know, we've been at a gathering or something like that. And then like you start having a conversation with somebody. And then next thing you know, it seems like you've known each other forever and you never met the person before in your life. And I've always wondered if that wasn't just a happenstance of someone you've known before kind of clashing with this different life. Any thoughts about that from
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had lots of experiences with that. Working in the film industry, you are kind of, you know, it's this, you know, I have a tattoo on my leg that says Carney Life.
Okay.
Because it's this carnival like mishmash of people from all different, you know, age groups and kind of mashed together in a carnival atmosphere where we have to put up a tent and make a movie or make a TV show and then tear it all down and move to the next town and do it again. So I met a lot of different, you know, people, and I most of my life gravitate toward friendships with older men. I want if there's an old man, I want to sit and drink coffee and I want to listen to his stories. Old men have amazing stories and I just want to absorb all of it. I met a gentleman on a movie that I worked on in Baltimore. I was in my early 20s. I just gotten married and he was in his 50s. He was a costumer. And I was kind of his assistant and we just got talking one day and it was like, we were like the same person. And it was like an instant friendship and it was like telepathic and we were working together. So it was like, we wouldn't even have to talk. Like I would know exactly what he, you know, it was like this ballet and we worked very closely together for the length of the movie, which was maybe like 3 months. And I was always like, oh, we were soldiers in a past life, you know, like he'd always say like, we had nothing in common. He was an Hispanic man in his 50s from LA, white girl, you know, from Virginia. But he'd always be like, we have nothing in common. Like, why are, you know, and I'd be like, oh, we were soldier buddies in a past life, you know, and like, I don't believe in that. Blah, blah, blah. And the last day we spent together you know, my last day on the film, I was leaving and, you know, had my car packed up and he walked me out and he's like sobbing.
Oh,
and he gives me a hug and he's like, I believe it. I believe we were we knew each other in a past life. He's like, I never believed that. But yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of experiences like that. And, you know, I think at the time I was joking with him, but I maybe unconsciously kind of knew that, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, that was 20 years ago. We're not close buddies, but we still, you know, communicate. We still know each other. But yeah, I think that when you just kind of meet somebody and I think the opposite can be true. You ever meet anybody and you're just like, oh, like you don't want repelled by them and for no reason, you know, like I know someone who totally lovely person, like, but the sound of this person's voice and I'm just like, it's just, you know, and I have to wonder, I'm like, did they like, you know, I don't know, steal my husband in another life? Like, well, you know what, why am so irritated by this when this person opens their mouth? They're totally fine person, you know?
That's
But yeah.
interesting because that happens to me often. I don't want to sound like I'm a heartless person who hates everybody because clearly I'm not. But it happens a lot where I come across somebody and I just don't like them.
Mhm.
And like I don't have any proof or reason to like not like that person, but I just don't. And because I'm an intuitive person, I have been my whole life, I have to listen to that.
Mhm.
But I never thought about it as being possibly a past life experience that I'm tapping into.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. So maybe this person really isn't a terrible person, but maybe they were in some other life.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, think of like, I've never had like a traditional job, but like, corporate work, if you, have coworkers and, or you're in a career where you kind of come across the same people. I mean, I have experience a little bit in film work, but or the same type of person. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same specific individual, and that's that like pattern. Like, why do I keep encountering this person, or why do I keep encountering the same situation over and over again? Now, you have to look at yourself. Like, if you're the common denominator, are you a part to play in it? But I think that past life stuff can filter in with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
We'll have to explore that with some of the people I currently know that I'm like, I don't like that person. But I don't know why I don't like that person.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's interesting because like on the opposite side of that, like the times, and it doesn't happen very often, but like maybe 4 or 5 times that I can think of off the top of my head where that's happened to me. It's never like someone I stay friends with. It's not like part of that core group. Like if you have a core group, it's always someone who's just like kind of like fleeting through my life for like a minute. But I'm like, man, like I really had a connection.
You're talking about the opposite, like the someone that you're connected to. That you feel
yeah. But it's like the same thing. It's just the opposite.
Yeah.
You know. But it's never like someone who's like, in my core group. I feel like it's almost like someone who's just kind of from a past life who kind of dances across this one or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, we're down to the last 2 minutes. Jenny, tell people one more time where they can find you.
You can find me at my website, which is my name, www.jennymcgurk.com. And I am on Instagram. Jenny K. McGurk is my handle. I am on Facebook, but it's not really business. It's like you can totally find me on Facebook, but there's not, it's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Pinterest also, but Instagram is where I hang out mostly for my business stuff.
Cool. And do you have any things coming up that you're going to be doing or places you're going to be?
I do. On April 5th, I'm going to be at, I believe it's called Woodland Farms, and it's going to be a like a metaphysical healing event. It's just going to be 3 practitioners, and it's ticketed, and we each you buy the ticket and then you get our services, and for included in the ticket price. So there's going to be a tarot reader, a Reiki practitioner. I think there's going to be like sound bath healing. And I have the event page, and we'll be posting about that when it gets a little bit closer.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, and I also do ghost tours with Haunts of Richmond in Richmond, Virginia, all down.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I love history and I love paranormal. So ghost tours are like match made in heaven, and I love it. And Haunts of Richmond owners Chris and Beth, who were at Paracon, I think
they've been on the show.
They've been on the show.
Yes. Yeah.
They are amazing. I'm so glad to call them friends, and they're so knowledgeable about the history of Richmond. I'm like a sponge. I just want to know everything. But yeah, so I do ghost tours with them.
And
we'll have to come do a tour. We did one for our anniversary last fall.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Which one did you do?
The Churchill.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was really interesting because VCU students and all that, and like there was still so much that we learned. Like it was great. It was really
good. Yeah. Of things we didn't know.
All right, Jenny. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us tonight. We had a blast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Wonderful. Can't wait to talk to you again. For everyone who's listening to us at another time in another place, we will see you all next time. And for everyone who's still hanging out with us tonight, we're going to go find someone to raid. I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us.
Yeah, thanks
through the
everybody
whole
for
2 hours.
giving
Yeah.
subs and gifting subs and the hype
I
train at
know.
the beginning and everybody hanging out. It's a lot of good stuff happening in the chat today. We got
Sheepy's
Black
on.
Sheep Meat. Yep.
Let's go
Blue
read
Knight
Black Sheep.
Oracle, Diabolic Tutor. Gonna go raid Sheepy.
Yeah, we'll go raid Sheepy. We'll say hi to her.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. So stream tomorrow night, Jenny?
Yes.
Friday night stream?
I have it all planned out and I don't have to work tomorrow, so it should be okay. Gonna do a group meditation because shit's crazy. We're in the dumpster fire, right? I'm gonna have my Eclipse Tarot spread available, and of course, we're gonna do our regular readings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have your channeling coming up.
Yes.
As well,
Night with
right?
Divine Mother is on Sunday. Tickets are still available.
Excellent. All right. And just a heads up for everybody too, talking about Teamwear Takeover. Tickets are up. We got a little while to go, but if you need any information, you go to witchinghourspodcast.com or just ask in Discord. We got all the information up there about the location, all those kinds of things. We're going to have a great time ghost hunting.
Yeah.
We're going to have a packed night. We're probably going to have so much play we won't be able to get through it all. So it's going to be fun. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. All right, let's go raid. We'll see Black Sheep Meat and say hello. Throw out your want to get weirds if you got them. And I'll see most of you guys tomorrow night. Take care, everybody. We'll see y'all next time.